So I have another feel-good story for everybody about left-wing media doing some good. Take a look at another clip from our friend David Pakman, and somebody called into his show and said this.
Hello, David.
Yes, that's you.
Hi, this is Justin from Brooklyn.
Hey, Justin, what's up?
Hi, I'll try to make this brief because I don't know how many of these calls you get, but I had last week watched a video from Kyle Kulinski about how people who are deprogrammed from the right should call in more to shows and let people know that how you've helped. So
right, yeah, didn't he, I think he played a clip of one of my callers saying that we had deprogrammed him, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I felt I should do my part and call in and say thank you.
Oh, okay. What were your beliefs that you were disabused of?
Well, one thing I have written down that I feel really kind of not so much angered me when I started moving out of my comfort zone, but I was a big listener of Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin.
Yep.
Stefan Molyneux, unfortunately. So I guess you could kind of see the path I was going down.
Right.
And one thing that really kind of angered me when I started listening to you, Kyle, Sam, is that the right kind of creates this caricature of the left of being these like people with, forgive my language, sticks up their butt, not fun. They're racist towards, and I know I don't know if this might sound weird to some, but the left is racist towards white people, and they kind of don't draw the line between, say, you and the pink-haired feminists that they love to rank on so much.
What side of an issue were you on when you were in that dark echo chamber? And then what is your position now? Like, pick any particular issue where your mind has been changed.
Okay. So I guess I could pick one as being immigration.
Okay.
A lot of them like to throw out statistics of, let's say, one racial group performs more crime than others. Okay. When in actuality, immigrant groups don't commit as much crime as Native American citizens. So that was one thing that I kind of had to reevaluate.
I love that call, and I love it for a variety of reasons. I remember the exact story that he's talking about because I've mentioned that many times on the show. I remember the study and I remember talking about it. And I remember particularly because of this reaction from him, because as I was prepping that story, I was saying to myself, oh, this is going to deconvert a lot of people from right-wing beliefs. I remember, because he's right. One of the things that people on the right use is they talk about black crime statistics, and they talk about how, they use that. They don't come out and say it, but oftentimes it's implied. They try to use that to be like, see, the problem is the damn minorities, okay? White people are wonderful, minorities are terrible. I didn't say that out loud, but I am harping away on how terrible the black crime statistics are. And I remember when I was prepping that story, and I was looking through the article, and it gives the exact numbers. Okay, here's the crime rate of undocumented immigrants, here's the crime rate of documented immigrants, and here's the crime rate of American citizens, native-born citizens. And I think the order was native-born citizens are the worst, and then you had undocumented immigrants were better than native citizens, and documented immigrants were the best in terms of they had the lowest crime rate. As I was reading that, I had that light bulb moment, and I was like, oh, this is one of those stories that's so powerful because it so directly refutes the narrative of, minority bad, that it may actually, on this story alone, it may actually change some people's minds, and it may start moving them in a further left direction. So I'm really happy about that because it shows my instinct in that moment of this is why this is such an important story to cover. My instinct in that moment was correct. But actually, the reason I'm talking about this is because I want to take it a step further, because that's only half the argument. Only half the argument is, hey, immigrants have, a lower crime rate, So maybe it's not like minorities are bad, like people on the right have been saying or just implying for all these years. The other part of the argument is, let's say for a second that the immigrant crime rate is slightly higher and the black crime rate is higher. I hope you're sitting down. You ready? I don't care. You want to know why? Because people are individuals, and I view people as individuals. So you don't craft policy to crack down on an entire group of people because you could say, per capita or relatively speaking, there could be a higher crime rate in that community. That's not a reason to take that next step, which is a giant step, which is a fallacy, to then say, oh, well, then obviously we have to craft policy to be against that group and for the other group. Why? People are people. People are individuals. So if you have somebody from a group that statistically may commit more crime, but that individual has never committed a crime, then why are you collectively punishing them for what your perception of the entire group is as a whole? It never made any sense to me. So it's an important fact because it refutes the right on their grounds, and it shows them, hey, wait a second, you're all concerned about high crime rates. Well, immigrants actually commit fewer crimes. Okay, so it refutes them on their own ground, but then the next step is, why are we even having this conversation anyway? We don't do collective punishment. That's not what a democracy is supposed to be about. That's not what individualism is supposed to be about. We're supposed to be reasonable about this stuff. We're supposed to be objective about this stuff. We're supposed to understand that people are people and they're complex and they're different. And just because they're not solely made up by their racial characteristics, so why are we pretending like this is a reasonable conversation, a rational conversation to have? So I just wanted to add that point to what he said. But I do remember the story that Justin is talking about, and I specifically remember when I was prepping it, I was going, this is a good one because this directly flies in the narrative. It flies in the face of the narrative of what many people on the right are saying. And yeah, I love these stories. They make me happy because it shows that some good is happening out there, you know? Some good. All I'm about, I don't really care too much about sides. I just care about getting people information, and then also trying to push for some policy ideas that would make the world less shitty. That's my philosophy. So what would make the world less shitty? I don't know. We should probably legalize marijuana and stop locking people up because they're enjoying a substance and not hurting anybody. That would make the world less shitty. You know what else would make the world less shitty? Eliminating medical bankruptcies in the United States of America. We're the only developed country that has the concept of medical bankruptcies as a thing. We should get rid of that. Everybody should have health care. We should stop these unnecessary wars and killing people overseas. So if you actually care about just making the world slightly less shitty and you act in accordance with that, it turns out, hey, you can change people and turn them away from some pretty odious characters. And I'm happy about that. I really am. Because the fact of the matter is, and this is why guys like Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro always piss me off to no end, is that if you actually take the time to go through what they're saying and like fact check them as they go, you'll find very quickly they're totally full of shit. They're totally full of shit. They do like what Glenn Beck did in the story we covered earlier in this show, where they spin everything, they twist everything, they give a weird interpretation of something and act like it's objective, and it's like, no, you're not actually giving people a straight dope, you're giving your spin on it, the right-wing spin on it, and what you think you're supposed to say. And that's just the hackiest of hacky commentary. And I'm glad that there are a lot of people that are catching on. I'm glad that this is now a trend. And we know it's a thing that happens out there. And it's just a shame that, you know, certainly corporate media does not focus on. They love to do the scare stories. Like, oh my God, the right-wing rabbit hole on YouTube and people are getting radicalized. Be afraid. But they never tell you the other side of the story, which is that many people have been deconverted, deprogrammed, de-radicalized by the same method. The same method, watching YouTube. So the answer is not censorship. The answer is bolstering the voices of people who are not arguing for incredibly odious and shitty beliefs. Call me crazy.